There comes a moment in every person's life when they must decide who they are becoming, not by chance, but by deliberate and repeated action. Success does not appear in one grand gesture, nor does transformation greet those who wait passively. It emerges quietly, steadily, through the power of consistency. Each small step you repeat, each effort you refuse to abandon, becomes a brick in the foundation of the life you desire. Consistency is the unseen law that shapes destiny. It demands no brilliance, no perfect conditions, only your willingness to show up again and again. What you practice, you become. What you repeat, you strengthen. And the mind, once trained to persist, will carry you far beyond the limits you once believed you had. Today you stand at the threshold of change, not because of a dramatic event, but because you are ready to commit to the daily actions that transform ordinary individuals into extraordinary achievers. Allow consistency to be your compass. Let it guide your habits, your focus, your decisions. For when you claim the power to act with unwavering discipline, you claim the power to rewrite your entire life story. Your transformation begins the moment you decide not to stop. Consistency is often described as a habit, a behavior, or a discipline, but in truth, it is far more than that. It is the silent architect behind every form of lasting success. It quietly designs the structure of your life, shaping your character, your destiny, and the results you experience, often without you noticing that its influence is at work. Most people search endlessly for sudden breakthroughs, dramatic changes, and moments of brilliance. Yet the real power lies in the small, repeated actions that seem insignificant in the moment, but accumulate into something extraordinary over time. Consistency operates in the background, building your future piece by piece, long before the results become visible. Every great transformation begins with a single decision, the decision to continue, not once, not twice, but every day, even when motivation fades and the excitement of starting something new disappears. The human mind is fascinated by quick victories and instant gratification, but the world does not reward flashes of temporary effort. It rewards sustained determination. When you commit to show up repeatedly, regardless of how you feel, you activate a force that reshapes your entire identity. You begin to see yourself not as someone who tries, but as someone who follows through. That shift alone has the power to open doors you didn't even know existed. Consistency is not glamorous. It is not dramatic. It rarely draws attention. And that is precisely why it is so powerful. While others are waiting for inspiration, you are building strength. While others get discouraged by the slow pace of progress, you are developing resilience. Every day you practice your craft, study your goal, or discipline your habits, you are planting seeds below the surface. For a long time, there may be no visible proof that your work is making any difference. This is the part that tests most people because they mistake silence for failure. But the truth is that silence is where your foundation is formed. The roots grow first. The unseen structure becomes strong enough to support the greatness that will eventually rise. There is a certain kind of quiet confidence that grows from doing what you said you would do. When you show up consistently, you no longer rely on motivation or luck to guide you. You build trust in yourself. You discover that discipline is not a burden but a form of personal power. You learn that perseverance is not about pushing harder but about refusing to stop. And over time you begin to feel a sense of internal alignment. Your thoughts, your actions, and your desires move in the same direction. This alignment creates momentum. And once momentum takes hold, progress becomes almost unavoidable. Consider the way water shapes rock, not through force, not through speed, but through steady, repeated contact. A single drop means nothing. 1,000 drops begin to matter. 1,000,000 drops carve canyons. That is the nature of consistency. It transforms what seems impossible into something inevitable. The same principle applies to your mind, your habits, your skill set, and your destiny. Every day you repeat an action, you reinforce a belief. Every belief you strengthen becomes part of your identity, and your identity ultimately determines what you achieve. People often underestimate what they can accomplish in a year and overestimate what they can achieve in a day. They chase intensity instead of continuity. They start strong but fail to continue. They want the reward but resist the routine. And yet the individuals who ultimately rise are those who understand that success is not an event, but a structure, one built through repeated effort. They know that greatness is not delivered suddenly. It is assembled brick by brick, habit by habit, moment by moment. They embrace the slow, deliberate, sometimes monotonous process because they understand that every repetition adds to their strength. There will always be days when you feel tired, distracted, discouraged, or overwhelmed. Consistency does not demand perfection. It simply demands that you return. You may move slowly. You may struggle. You may doubt yourself. But as long as you continue, even in the smallest way, you remain on the path of growth. And every time you choose to stay on that path, you reinforce your commitment to the life you want to create. Consistency is the architect, but you are the builder. And with every steady action you take, you are constructing the version of yourself capable of achieving everything you once believed was out of reach. Repeated small actions create powerful, irreversible momentum. That is one of the greatest truths about progress and personal transformation. Most people believe that success comes from massive effort, grand decisions, or moments of inspiration. But real, lasting change doesn't begin with one giant leap. It begins with the smallest, most ordinary steps, taken consistently, day after day. It's the accumulation of these little choices that slowly builds an unstoppable force in your life. Like the gentle push that starts a wheel turning, those early actions may seem minor, almost meaningless at first. But once the wheel starts rolling, each new effort adds to its speed, and soon it becomes almost impossible to stop. Momentum is not born overnight. It's created in the quiet repetition of your daily habits. It starts when you decide to wake up early, even when you don't feel like it. It builds when you write one more page, make one more call, or take one more step toward your goal. These actions are rarely dramatic. They do not earn applause, but they set something powerful in motion inside you. The human mind begins to recognize patterns. It sees effort turning into progress, and progress turns into belief. Once belief takes root, motivation becomes automatic. You no longer need to push yourself forward. The momentum carries you. Think of a train resting at a station. At first, it takes tremendous power to get it moving. The engine strains, the wheels struggle, and it feels as though nothing is happening. But once the train begins to roll, the same engine that once struggled now pulls effortlessly. That is the essence of momentum. The same law applies to your goals, your dreams, and your personal growth. In the beginning, everything feels heavy. Resistance is strong, doubt is loud. You question whether your small actions matter at all. But if you stay consistent long enough, that resistance weakens. The weight begins to shift. Suddenly, what once felt impossible becomes your new normal. Every repetition is a declaration to yourself. Each time you act, even in a small way, you are sending a message to your subconscious mind, I am moving forward. That message, repeated enough times, changes your identity. You stop seeing yourself as someone who hopes and start seeing yourself as someone who acts. This is when momentum begins to take control. What was once effort turns into rhythm. What was once discipline turns into desire. The process starts to sustain itself. There is something beautiful about this invisible power. You don't always notice it building. Days may pass where you feel stuck, where progress seems distant or invisible, but momentum is growing underneath the surface, like a current beneath still water. One day, you'll look back and realize that the distance between who you were and who you've become is enormous, and that all of it began with small, simple, repeated actions. That's the quiet miracle of consistency. The more you do, the more capable you become of doing. Momentum also protects you from the forces that once held you back. When you're just starting, excuses and fears can easily stop you. You think too much, worry too much, and hesitate at every obstacle. But once momentum builds, hesitation loses its power. It's like running downhill. You don't have time to overthink, you just keep moving. This natural acceleration is one of life's greatest rewards for persistence. It feels as though life begins to cooperate with you. Doors open, opportunities appear. People begin to notice your energy and commitment. What once felt forced now feels fluid. But this kind of momentum can only be earned. It cannot be borrowed or faked. It grows out of repetition, patience, and trust in the process. Every day you show up, even imperfectly, you are adding another layer of power to your motion. Eventually, your actions, habits, and mindset align so completely that progress feels inevitable. This is why people who have built momentum seem unstoppable. They're not relying on motivation anymore. They're being pulled forward by the very energy they created. And that energy, once it exists, becomes nearly impossible to reverse, just as a wheel in motion resists stopping. A person who has cultivated daily momentum resists falling back into stagnation. The habits that once felt like effort become part of who you are. You begin to crave progress the same way others crave comfort. That is the gift of repeated small actions. They don't just change your results, they change your nature. Momentum is one of the most powerful allies you can have in life. It rewards those who start small, those who persist quietly, those who believe that effort adds up even when the world isn't watching. Every great journey, every lasting success, every meaningful transformation begins with that first humble step and continues because of the 1,000 steps that follow. When you commit to repeating small actions with purpose, you awaken the unstoppable force that carries dreams from imagination into reality. The mind becomes stronger, clearer, and more disciplined through consistent effort. People often assume that mental strength is something you either have or don't have. But in reality, it is shaped by the small choices you make every day. The brain is not a fixed organ with rigid limitations. It adapts to what you repeatedly do. Just as muscles grow through regular exercise, the mind evolves through steady engagement with meaningful action. Every time you push yourself to stay focused, to show up when it's easier not to, or to keep your word to yourself, you are training your mind to obey your intentions rather than your impulses. The human mind is naturally inclined toward comfort and familiarity. It wants to conserve energy and avoid difficulty. This is why discipline feels uncomfortable at first. It goes against the mind's default programming. But with consistency, something remarkable begins to happen. You start to build mental endurance. What once felt hard becomes manageable. What once overwhelmed you becomes routine. This shift does not happen suddenly. It develops gradually as you expose your mind to repeated effort. With every act of persistence, you are forging new mental pathways, strengthening your capacity to handle challenges and stay focused on what truly matters. Mental clarity is another gift that grows slowly through consistent habits. When your actions align with your goals on a daily basis, your mind becomes less cluttered by doubt and confusion. You no longer waste as much energy questioning your direction or second-guessing your decisions. The very act of showing up repeatedly sharpens your sense of purpose. You begin to see patterns in your progress that were invisible before. Your thinking becomes more organized, your choices become more intentional, and your attention becomes more stable. Clarity is not found in moments of inspiration, but created in the discipline of doing the work again and again. The mind thrives on repetition because repetition builds familiarity, and familiarity builds confidence. When you practice something consistently, whether it is reading, writing, exercising, studying, or working on a personal goal, you begin to develop a deeper understanding of yourself. You start to identify what helps you stay focused and what distracts you. You learn how to manage your emotions, how to handle stress, and how to stay committed even when motivation fades. This knowledge is not gained through theory. It is earned through experience. Consistent effort reveals the strengths you didn't know you had and exposes the weaknesses you didn't realize were holding you back. Discipline is often misunderstood as something harsh or restrictive, but in truth, discipline is a form of freedom. It frees you from the control of your impulses, from the weight of procrastination, and from the anxiety that comes from a lack of direction. When your mind becomes disciplined, you no longer feel pulled in a dozen different directions. You learn to focus on what is important and ignore what is not. This level of mental control gives you a sense of stability and power that few people ever experience. It grows stronger every time you choose consistency over convenience. There will always be days when your mind resists the work, days when you feel tired, unfocused, or overwhelmed. But these are the very days when consistency matters most. Pushing yourself to take even a small step when you feel like doing nothing trains your mind to act on intention rather than emotion. It teaches you that moods are temporary, but habits are stable. Over time, you become less dependent on feeling inspired and more capable of taking action simply because it aligns with your goals. That shift is the very definition of mental strength. The clearer your mind becomes, the more powerfully it can create, imagine, and solve problems. Distraction loses its grip. Fear becomes quieter. Self-doubt weakens. You begin to trust your own judgment because you have proven through consistent effort that you can rely on yourself. This trust is essential for long-term success. It allows you to take risks with confidence, to pursue goals that once felt too distant, and to maintain focus even in moments of uncertainty. The disciplined mind is not easily shaken by external circumstances. It does not collapse under pressure or lose its direction when faced with setbacks. It becomes resilient, adaptable, and determined.
This resilience isn't developed through easy days, but through the days when consistency required real strength.
Every difficult moment you push through becomes a mental victory. Over time, those victories accumulate into a deep sense of inner stability. Consistency is the training ground where mental strength is built, not in grand gestures, but in simple repeated actions. You don't become mentally strong overnight, but you do become strong through the quiet, steady work of showing up each day. With each repetition, the mind becomes sharper, more disciplined, and more capable of supporting the life you are trying to create. This is how consistent effort transforms not only what you achieve, but who you become. Every act of persistence reshapes self-belief and strengthens purpose. Most people underestimate how deeply their daily choices affect the way they see themselves. They think self-belief comes from achievements, praise, or results. But real confidence is built long before visible success arrives. It is formed in the quiet moments when you refuse to quit, when you show up despite doubt, and when you prove to yourself, through action, that you are someone who follows through. Each time you persist, you send a powerful message to your own mind. I am capable. I am committed. I can do hard things. Over time, this message becomes part of your identity. Belief doesn't grow in a single dramatic moment. It develops in layers, gradually strengthening every time you do something you didn't feel like doing. When you push through fatigue, discomfort, or uncertainty, you reinforce the idea that you can rely on yourself. That reliability becomes the foundation of unshakable confidence. The more you demonstrate consistency, the more deeply you begin to trust your own decisions, your own discipline, and your own resilience. People who lack self-belief are often those who break promises to themselves. They stop when things get difficult, and each time they do, they confirm the belief that they are not capable. Persistence reverses that pattern. It rewrites the story you tell yourself about who you are. Every small moment of perseverance is a conversation between you and your future. When you choose to continue, even when progress seems invisible, you reaffirm your commitment to your purpose. Purpose isn't just a feeling, it's a direction, and that direction becomes clearer as you persist. The simple act of not giving up sharpens your understanding of what you want and why you want it. Even when results are slow, the effort itself becomes meaningful because it reminds you of the person you are becoming. Purpose strengthens when you take consistent action because action creates clarity. If you wait to feel inspired before you move, you allow uncertainty to lead you. But when you move even without inspiration, you begin to shape your purpose through experience. You discover what excites you, what drains you, what challenges you, and what fulfills you. These discoveries help refine your path, making your goals more accurate and your vision more vivid. Persistence acts like a sculptor, chipping away at confusion and doubt until what remains is something solid and undeniable. Self-belief is not something you acquire from others. It is something you build from within, and the raw material for that construction is persistence. When you keep going despite obstacles, you gather evidence that supports your ability to succeed. This evidence becomes a mental reservoir you can draw strength from during the difficult moments. You no longer have to rely on motivation or encouragement because you know, deeply and personally, that you have overcome challenges before and can do so again. This inner knowing is far more powerful than any compliment or external validation. Persistence also teaches you to separate temporary discomfort from permanent defeat. Many people give up not because they lack talent, but because they misinterpret difficulty as impossibility. When you persist through challenging moments, you realize that discomfort is simply part of the process, not a sign that you should stop. This understanding transforms your mindset. You learn to see challenges as stepping stones rather than barriers. Every obstacle faced and overcome becomes proof that your purpose is worth pursuing and that you have the strength to pursue it. As your self-belief grows, something else happens. Your purpose becomes more resilient. A strong purpose can withstand setbacks, delays, and disappointments. It doesn't collapse under pressure because it is anchored in the actions you take daily. People often look for purpose in dramatic revelations or sudden insights, but in truth, purpose is strengthened through repetition. Each day you persist,